Okay, we're going to be mixing up a small batch of glue this morning to just tab in that main bulkhead so it doesn't move anymore. I'm sick and tired of constantly lining it up, so we'll glue it in place. This is wood flour. Make about a 2.5 scoop batch. A couple of the other things we add to the mix for bulk and sandability, and it sure doesn't sag, these are glass beads, or what they call Q-cells, or different manufacturers have different names for it, but it's very important to wear your dust masks and stuff when working with this stuff. And the next one is Cabasil. We add this to the mix, and it really helps in preventing sagging when we get our glue mixed up. That's pretty nasty stuff. You don't want to breathe that in. I like to fold it all together before I add epoxy to it, just to get it mixed. You can buy fillers like this already pre-mixed. Some you can buy come in cylinders, you know, like Gel Magic, I think it's called. Not exactly sure, I've never used it. I find it's too expensive, but on a boat this size, economy is everything. So now we're going to use our sticky stuff dispenser to add some epoxy. It measures out approximately an ounce per pump, so I don't have a recipe. I just go by feel. If it's too dry, I add epoxy. If it's too loose, you can always add more filler to it. Now on a larger batch, I have been known to use the old hand mixer, which works really well. It's just a pain in the butt to clean it up afterwards, but when you've got carpal tunnel in both your hands, it really helps. See, we're getting there. It's still a little dry. Somebody the other day asked me how many hours I had into the boat so far. That's a really tough question. It's a fairly frequent one that people ask, and this is year 6 of actually building the boat. But the last couple of years my energy levels have been really low. Had a hard time managing my blood sugar and stuff like that. So 2-3 hours a day, and then you have to deal with the heat. Building in the shed here, it's basically a huge solar collector. I think we got our mix pretty much the way I like it. So usually 2-3 hours a day before I have to run from the shed. We've had some long days, 10-12 hours in the shed. We were laminating the bottom panels and the keel and stuff like that. That was a lot of hard work. This is a pretty big project for someone to do on their own. Turned out to be a hell of a lot more work than I bargained for. had a squeegee here somewhere. There it is. Well, it's really warm. This stuff will start to kick off very quickly, and it's an exothermic reaction, so it gets hot. I've actually seen it melt its way through the bottom of one of the solo cups that I've mixed it in. So you want to try and get it out of the bucket, into the bag, and onto the boat as quickly as you can before it starts to kick off, because once it starts to kick, it's really hard to work with, if at all. Right now it's 26 degrees Celsius in the boat shed, so that's not too bad. All the fans are going, which keeps the air moving. I think we got almost all of it. And there's our bag of glue. And that's ready to go on the boat. Let's just tie it up here if we can. Glue. A lot of people use a lot of different things for making their fillets. I make these out of the cheap drywall plastic putty knives. This one's a bit smaller than the ones I've used for making the fillets on the stringers, which are large members. They're much bigger around. I'm going to try and make these smaller, to cut back on the amount of material that I'm using. Going through a lot of epoxy filler and stuff, so I'm going to cut the nib off my bag here a little bit smaller than I normally would. I've trimmed up and raised the panel, so there's a bit of an eighth of an inch to 3/16 inch gap, so the bulkhead isn't touching the hull. And that's important, I guess, should you bang the hull and don't end up with stretch, fracture, cracks, and things like that. So let's get some on here. I think we need a little more. Sorry about my aim, I'm still getting used to this chesty thing. I can see what the GoPro sees until I tilt it up too far. There we go. That's a nice little fillet. one little tight spot here. It's not quite touching the hole, but I'm tired of pulling this panel out, trimming, pulling the panel out, resetting it, measuring it. So I'm just going to let it live the way it is right now. I'll just skip over the other side. I apologize if my aim is off. See where I've used popsicle sticks as spacers. Gives you a little more than 1/8 of an inch. I was going to use some foam, which I've seen used on the web and stuff like that, but this works. It's how I bedded the stringers, so if the boat falls apart, the boat falls apart. There's nothing I can do about it. Good attitude, right? That's just about the right size batch for this job. One of the things is you've sort of always got to keep in mind a place where you can put your excess glue or filler, or where you don't waste it. It's all got to go on the boat. This stuff is expensive. Of course, anything associated with a boat is expensive, as you know. It's another question I get is, how much is this going to cost? Well, if you've ever been on our blog, you'll see that there's a spreadsheet there with everything that we spent. That's only a rough approximation. Sometimes I miss some things. I've added some things twice. Generally I get some pretty good deals. Depends on the value of our dollar versus the US dollar, which right now isn't that good. I think we're paying about 30 cents difference on the dollar. We started buying stuff for the boat a couple of years before we started to build it. At the time, the economy tanked and a lot of small boat builders were going out of business and stuff, and they were liquidating their stocks on eBay, so we bought a lot of hardware. Sorry about that. We bought up a lot of hardware on eBay. And we were basically paying pennies on the dollar for things like port lights and cleats and windlasses and seats and table bases and, you know, all the little gizmos that go into actually making it a boat. So our basement is full of stuff. And our garden shed is full of stuff. We've got pretty much everything we need. Equipment-wise, to actually build the boat. Except for an air conditioner, which we pretty much have to have. So wife's got asthma. It's really hard for her to breathe when the humidity's up, so we considered that essential. We don't have a refrigerator yet. There's some things I haven't bought, like hoses and stuff like that, because they're really expensive as well, so you buy only what you need kind of thing. We'll come back later and make that look pretty. Almost done. This kind of works really hard on the hands when you have carpal tunnel. It's hard to describe it. Your thumb and first two fingers get really numb and tingling, and mine are just singing right now. I've used that TENS device. I'll show you that later on my hands. It helps a little bit, but the only thing that seems to work for sure is to just not use your hands, and that's obviously not an option if you're building a boat. So you suck it up, Buttercup. Deal with it. So there you have it. I'll let those set up a little bit, and we'll come back and we'll glue in some tape, stitches, just to hold it in place, and then I won't have to be bothered lining the friggin' thing up anymore. That's it. So we're back. We're going to mix up a small batch of epoxy here, probably about 6 ounces or so. To wet out those tabs that we put in. Just a small batch. We don't need much. I don't know if you can see it, but the sticky stuff dispenser, once you get done pumping, siphon action pulls some of the hardener out. So I like to keep the cup here for at least a minute. So over time it adds up. See the catch cup at the bottom's about half full, probably about 8 ounces of epoxy that's been leaked out so far this year. Adds up, I guess. Epoxy for me to get it from Florida into the boat shed here works out to about $100 a gallon. It was a lot better years ago when our dollar was at par. That was usually about $60 a gallon. To buy it from a Canadian distributor, I think the last time I checked, all in taxes, shipping, etc., worked out to about $120, $125 a gallon. We're lucky we live fairly close to the border, so we can have the materials shipped to the UPS store just across the border and run over and get our groceries and have dinner and pick up our supplies. We've used that system now for it'd be almost 10 years since we started buying the parts for the boat. trying to do this one-handed and hold the camera in position and wet out a piece of tape. So if I drift off out of frame, I apologize. It's not pretty, but it works. Yeah, plain in the glue just makes a mess. So we'll come back tomorrow and give it a quick sand. I'll put a bigger piece in there, I guess. So, pretty sure I'm going to have to chip my GoPro camera out of the housing here. I've got it securely glued into place. kind of wild trying to do it with one hand. So you get the idea. We're tack welding this thing into place. I'm going to put a link in the description to a fellow boat builder's blog. His name's Doug Jackson. He's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's building a huge sailboat in his backyard. I think it's 74 feet, but I'm not too sure. But I'll put the link there. Check it out. It's being done in steel, and he gets volunteers coming from all over the world to help on his boat. He's tagged it the boat the internet built, and that's really true, because I guess today with YouTube and blogs and the internet and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of interest in people with projects like this on the go. Doug has some really mad skills. I really admire his work. He's gone so far as to cast his own propeller blades. He bought a Hundestat variable pitch propeller system for the boat, and it didn't have any blades, so rather than buy blades at probably horrendous cost, he cut the shapes for the forms on a CNC mill that he has in his shop, and cast them in bronze. And it's really, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, it's horrendously interesting. Many hours of viewing on his blog and YouTube channel. I highly recommend you go pay him a visit. Definitely worthwhile. There, Doug, you've been plugged. I have no idea if we're in frame here, so just bear with me. Need a little more epoxy to do the other side, so. Pretty comfortable in the boat shed here today. It's probably about 75 degrees. It'll get warmer as the day goes on, but I'm working with slow cure epoxy, so it allows me to work at a fairly leisurely pace. If I had more hands, I would probably arrange the work for long, massive taping sessions and filleting and but when you work alone, you like to work at a nice steady pace so you don't burn yourself out. I did that a couple of times earlier on when we were sheeting the hull with fiberglass, and you end up with 3 or 4 days recovery time just to recover from laminating one side of the hull. have no idea where the camera's pointed right now. I do have a thing called a Wi-Fi back, which allows me to connect to the GoPro via my iPhone. It actually works. It's really hard on batteries though. They don't seem to last too long. So anyways, you got the idea. So I'm going to call it quits here. I need to mix up a little more to finish these tabs. So there you have it. Tabs are in. I think I'm going to call it quits and work on my TV antenna project for the rest of the afternoon. Yeah, that's about it. We'll come back tomorrow and we'll sand down all the joins and we'll fillet them and I'll tape them, and this sucker won't go anywhere when that's done. That's it for the day. Welcome to the Messy Boat Project. Thanks for looking in. Bye.